Okay, I want to get started again. We're gonna do this a little different. Okay, I know it's a long day. I know you're tired. I know that's a lot of information. How are you? Can you hang in there for a little bit longer? Okay. Is it good information? Okay, good. If you don't remember anything, you have your packet that has all kinds of things. We know that, like, you'll remember like a third of this, right? You know, and that's okay. But you'll at least maybe get some highlights, and you'll get the information again as you go along. So, okay. So for the next little bit, we're going to shift gears a little bit. I'll call on Nicole to help me every now and then, but we want to talk a little bit about. I mentioned this morning that. Nicole and I and Cindy and a couple others are the ones that if a student has a challenge that ends up kind of in our office, and we've learned, we've seen some themes over the years and learned some lessons. We don't expect you to have challenges, but we want to talk a little bit about not just for students who have challenges, but just in general, kind of how to get the most out of this program and how to be successful kind of in a well-rounded way. So I have just a few tips to share with you of kind of lessons learned from our office. So, and it's just pictures. So, so our first lesson really is, and you kind of heard a lot of ways to do this today, but one of the things that we really want to make sure you're doing is staying connected with us. So make sure you're hearing from us. Make sure we're hearing from you. And there's a number of ways to do that. You've heard about, well, we of course have our website, which has lots of information. We're updating our website over the summer. So if you go to it today, it may have some outdated information. You may notice that. But by the end of the summer, before you start school, it will be updated and have it will serve as a good resource for you as well. The other thing that we do is we send out a weekly newsletter from Admissions and Student Affairs, and in it has information, really kind of any information anyone in the college wants to share with students. So sometimes it can get long, and we've heard feedback from students that, I don't read your newsletter. It's too long. And we really want you to at least glance over it and see, because there will be some pieces of information in there that you will want to have. Things like scholarship announcements that happen in the middle of the year, field deadlines, reminders about when to register, an upcoming event that might be of interest to you. A lot of information is in there, so be sure that you're checking it. Our goal in the fall, beginning in the fall, is to get it out on Mondays and send it once a week. We send it less often in the summer because we don't have as much information coming in, but be sure to look at that, okay? And then Blackboard, you've heard a lot about Blackboard. How many of you, this is like your first time to hear about Blackboard? Like, do you know what Blackboard is? Okay. And we've just kind of said these terms, and you're like, I don't know what Blackboard is. What do you do with that? Blackboard is, and kind of higher ed today, is the online management system for classes. So in every class you take, you're going to have a Blackboard shell, is what they call it. Well, we also are going to give you a Blackboard shell from advising. And in it, we'll have, we'll put our newsletters, we'll have important information coming up, and it will serve as sort of a repository, like a storage place for you. So if you got a newsletter, you don't remember what it said, but I had that information I really needed, you can go back into Blackboard and pull up a prior newsletter or a prior deadline or things like that. So that'll be an important place for us to communicate with you. And then we also want you, and actually want you to do it right now, we want you to add, if you're a texter, which we get lots of feedback that the most effective way to communicate with students is by text. Go ahead right now and text to 81010. Nicole, tell me if I'm saying this right. You're going to text at the number, it's the first one on the list there. The actual text number is 81010. You'll put that in like you're texting a phone number, right? We can work. If you've not done a remind before, or you're a little shaky about how to add text, we can work with you afterwards. Yeah. I felt the same. I practiced it 3 times with Nicole yesterday. So text 81010. Your group, remember, you're face to face. So it's going to be FTF GCS. And the whole thing is at FTF GCS. Is anybody successful? Okay. Raise your hand when you've got it. Okay. All right. If you're having trouble with it, we don't mind staying with you afterwards. Okay, good. Yay. All right. So with texting, we're not going to overuse it because then you'll start to ignore us, right? But we will use it for important upcoming deadlines, and I think that'll be the easiest way to kind of keep you in the loop. Do y'all agree with that? Do you think, like, hey, will you text me a couple weeks before registration? That might be helpful. Or a couple days before registration? Yeah, okay. So, and then the last thing is we do email you. You get a lot of email from the University of Houston because you get it not just from our college, but you also get it from the main system. You might get it from financial aid. You might get it from other places. And the other thing that happens is sometimes you get so much email that you say, I don't read email from U of H anymore. I get too much email. And but we want you to, if you're not reading email, you might be missing some important stuff. So what I would say, and I feel the same way. I feel like I get too much email. So email, like just today, is just hard to manage. But it is sort of a professional skill you develop. So if you've already been in the workforce for a while, you kind of know that. If you're entering the workforce, it is sort of something you kind of have to figure out. So set up a good organizational system for yourself. It might be multiple accounts, or it might be, like a timeline as to I check my email every Wednesday, or whatever it is that works for you. Just be sure you're checking in on it periodically on a pretty consistent basis. So again, you may miss some important stuff from us if you don't. So, okay, so that's communication. Stay connected with us. Oh, this is just what Blackboard is going to look like. Again, you won't have access to your advising. We call it the virtual student lounge. You won't have access to it until you have access to your in-class and you have access to other Blackboard shells. So it's not something you're going to use this summer, but you should start looking for it like in September, like soon after the semester begins, okay? All right, so the other real lesson I think we've learned is, it sort of sounds obvious, but we really want you to be present. And I say that because in this day and age, we're all really busy. Do you feel like you're really busy? Yeah. And there's a lot coming at us and a lot being demanded of us. And it's sort of hard to be present these days. So there's a couple ways that I think that you can, sort of things you can do to be present. I mentioned earlier I started a PhD program a few years ago. I finished a couple years ago, so whatever I finished, started and finished. My advisor gave me some really good advice. It was really obvious advice, but I don't think if she hadn't sat down with me and told me this advice that I would have even thought about it. But basically she said, you're starting something that's going to be really demanding of your time and energy, and you need to carve out space for this in your life. And this is the time when you rely on your support system. You sit down with whoever you live with, spouse, family, friends, roommate, kids, whoever is in your life, and you basically work out a plan and say, this is important to me, this is part of my passion, my goals, and this means, to get this done, this means that I may not be available sometimes. So I did that. I sat down with my husband. My kids at the time were like 8 and 10, I think, or 9 and 11. I sat down with them and had a meeting with them and said, if I'm going to make this work, if I'm going to do this, there are going to be times when I'm just not available. So I set a time on Sunday afternoons where I just blocked it off, closed the door, and worked on school. And they understood that I needed to do that to reach this goal, and Then I also said to them, but there will be times that I will be available. And I followed through with that and made sure that I was there when I said I was going to be there. I also relied on like neighbors and friends. I'd call people and say, I'm in school for another couple of years. Can you pick up my kid every week for, for the next year or two? I promise when I finish school, I'll do the same for you. Or when I'm on break, I'll do the same for you. So basically, this is the time to turn to your support system and say, I got to work out a plan with you, my support system. And there's going to be some reciprocity, and I'm going to do the same for you at some point. So that really helped me a lot and helped me to sort of be proactive and thoughtful about how I was going to really make space for focusing on the program I was in. And then the other one is what I like to say, I like to introduce it with, hi, my name's Amber, and I'm an overcommitter. I think this profession sort of draws people who commit to a lot of things, right? So this is also the time to sort of know your limits and to set good boundaries and to do that, to practice that. And what that means, and again, my advisor had to tell me, Amber, it might not be the time to be on 2 committees at church and to run your child's scouts program and to and to volunteer at their school. You may need to say no to some of those things. And I went back and said no to some of those things and then picked them up later when I was able to pick them up and make a contribution in another way at another time. So think about that as well in terms of, is this the time to take that promotion at work? Is this the time to be the lead of your neighborhood organization? Maybe you want to join the jogging club because it's good for you and it's good self-care, but don't be the leader or in charge of the newsletter. Wait to do that until you're finished with school, right? Or until you can have a break and can add that in. So sort of know your limits, right? And then the last one we see kind of a lot of as well is everyone thinks they're a good multitasker, right? Do y'all think you're a good anybody think they're a good multitasker? No. Okay, good. Really, people are not that great at multitasking, right? So one thing that we tend to see is, and I do it too, I mean, this is my confessional, right? Is you're in class or you're doing something for field or you're doing homework and you're also working on work email and you might be trolling Facebook a little bit and you might be, checking, something else, some of your other messages. Sort of avoid the temptation to be doing all those things at once and just be present. We have, our commitment is to you, but it's also to the public. And we want to make sure when you finish, you've gotten as much as you can out of this program, and you are the most effective, self-aware, experienced, knowledgeable, skilled social worker that can go out there and work with the public. So we really do ask that you be present in all things that you're doing. So this is a quote that Brene Brown uses a lot, and I really like it as well. I think it sort of speaks to that as well. Have y'all seen that before? And then the other second to last tip is when you do need help, reach out for help. It's hard for us as helpers, helping professionals, to ask for help. We really are not good at it. But at the same time, as you go through this program in classes and in field, some things are going to be triggered for you. You may end up with a mental health issue. You may just need to work through something. You may have, something historical come up for you. So we want you to practice good awareness of that and ask for help when you need it. Nicole mentioned that there are resources on campus available to you that are some of them are no cost, some are low cost. You actually pay for it through your tuition, but you're paying for it anyway, so use those as needed. If you have a physical health issue come up, if you're anticipating surgery, or you've learned that you're expecting, or just something else is coming up, be proactive around it and reach out to your advisor and work with us on that. If you just realize, I just took one too many classes this semester, I'm struggling, I need to drop a class. Don't wait until too far into the semester. Reach out to us in the first half of the semester so we can work with you and we can talk to you about, it might just be reminding you of a drop deadline. It might be working with you to go back and talk to your faculty member to work through something. It might be connecting you to a resource on campus. Those are some of the things that we can sort of help you through. So, and then this is totally contradictory, I'll totally admit, to another point I just gave you. Right? So I said, have good boundaries, say no, don't get over involved. And I'm going to say, get involved. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because sometimes the issue we see is isolation. So we don't want you to kind of go off in your corner and get disconnected. We don't want you to also just connect with us just sort of passively, where you're kind of getting, maybe you are reading our newsletter, but you're not necessarily participating in anything. So there's a lot of different ways to get involved. Don't do all of them because, right, we want to set good boundaries. But do something that gets you connected and helps you. That will help you thrive. That will help you be successful. You're also developing. Look around, you're going to be calling each other in 20 years and making a referral to one another. Or you're going to say, hey, you got a job? Or you're going to say, you know, you're going to be connected. You're developing your network right now. And you're going to stay connected for a long time. So some of the things you can do to get involved, you can, we talked about student organizations, and you're gonna, on the tour, you're actually gonna get up out of this room and walk around for a little bit. You're gonna meet some of the people that are involved with student organizations. That's one way. You're also, only part of them are here today, but you're gonna meet more of them on the 16th and 17th. There's a number, there's something like 50 to 60 different social work professional organizations in addition to NASW. There's one for medical social workers, for school social workers, for forensics, I think. There's just all kinds of professional organizations for social workers. So as you get into field and then get into employment, you may want to get connected with those groups because they, again, serve as good networks for you and good information and, you know, all of that. We have lots and lots of events. And so I'd recommend that you come to some of those of your interest and when you can, and you'll have opportunities every semester. Pursue interests specific to you. We've given you so much information today, and the great thing is you have a lot of choices with us. You're going to have choices for special programs and for different activities and for field, and it's overwhelming right now, but when you kind of sift through it, think about you know, some of the ones that are of interest to you, and then absolutely connect with each other and with your faculty and build those relationships as well. So stay engaged, get engaged with us, but not too much, right? Okay. One way to do that is your first day of foundation. At the lunch hour, we're going to have a resource fair where student orgs are going to be present, and then different representatives from the resources on campus are going to be present. So that'll be a good opportunity. And I think we're going to host lunch groups where you can sit in much smaller groups and talk to one another, and also faculty and staff. So that should be a good time to get connected. You'll have lots of opportunities, though. So that's it for me right now. Do y'all have any questions for me or Nicole? Nicole, do you have anything to add? Okay. All right. So I think the next thing on the agenda is, like I said, you actually get up and walk around, but we're going to give you some specific instructions because you're going to get into small groups. Is Anna nearby, or did we finish early? Okay. So hang on just for a minute, and Anna's going to come in and give you instructions for how to get into your small groups. And we just got really this last activity, and then we'll close for the day, okay?